Yeah.
Hi, Danny.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good, how are you? Good?
This is Andy.
Rick Vogel.
And Rick.
How are you?
Andy Creetall.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Come on in.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you want to meet?
Over the phone, you made a comment that there was a quid pro quo.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
You shouldn't be talking like that.
All right.
You're just recommending.
Absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
Because if they don't get a good result on the real estate taxes, the whole project would be in trouble,
Yeah.
which is not good for your ward.
Good. Good.
So you want high quality.
Right. Right. I might want to talk to you afterwards
Mhm.
on an issue in Chinatown
Good.
where we need a transference of property from the state to the city.
Mm-hmm.
You might have heard of it before. It's the Chinatown parking lot on Wentworth and Cermak. And we've been working on developing that for years, but before we can do anything, that property has to be transferred
From the state.
to the city.
We'll talk about
Okay.
that, sure.
Where do you want me to sit?
Where?
Alderman Bud Gibson there.
Hey, bud. How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome. Saved on paper, huh?
So that's our Washington, thank you, sir. That's our Washington DC office. Zahm's sort of a national firm. We've got offices in Dallas and Florida. And so we've been active. We're in our 40th year of doing real estate development. So we were founded in Florida and have remained very active down there. But I run the DC office, which covers DC and the Chicago area as well. So I've been working your market for a little while now.
Yeah,
And
good.
finally got a project that we think we're getting close on.
Good, good.
And so it's pretty exciting.
It's a growing, booming area
Yeah.
on the west side.
It sure is. It sure is. We're excited to be there and for the opportunity.
Yeah. I drive through on Randolph going west
Sure.
every once in a while. And
It's easier than the
about
expressway.
time.
people walking across the street all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, that's
About
crazy.
time.
It's bustling, for sure. We're excited.
I'm sorry, did you want him to turn?
No, I'm fine.
Thank you.
We were offered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were offered, so.
Good, good. So you're going to do your project, and we'd like to talk to you about the real estate taxes. This law firm represents buildings like that on real estate taxes. And at that point, I bow out and he takes over.
Yeah, this is what I read. I guess it's two multi-state residential properties, 358.
357 units, so what it is, really,
With
it's
some commercial and
yeah, a little bit of
parking.
Yeah, a little bit of retail. So what we're doing is it's really it's a convoluted project. The shape of it is we're buying it from the Haymarket folks,
Yeah.
and they own some parking lots and a building there, and so we're buying it, and it kind of intertwines between different buildings on the block. So it's one project with a podium, right, that has the parking and the retail and some of our amenities, and then we're adding 2 towers on top of that.
Okay.
And that's the makeup of the
I'm
project.
very familiar with the area. We did some work for Senior McDermott when he was
Yeah.
establishing Haymarket.
Sure. It's different
Yeah.
today than
Yes,
was
it
then.
is. It's very different.
Have you done any other properties in the area right now?
Sure, we've done, we're working on the Noble Hotel.
Oh.
We've had various that now.
That's the Robert De Niro Hotel.
Yeah.
No, I wonder what he's probably got $100 invested in, but it's the Robert De Niro rather than his famous
Well, that's what
Japanese chef.
Walter said.
I know, that's what people, I
Yeah,
mentioned
Robert,
it to him and
De
right
Niro's
away.
in it, for sure. He was in the, I remember seeing the picture of him at the groundbreaking
Right,
ceremony.
exactly. No, he is involved, I guess, but it's funny, the power of celebrity, that
Yeah.
no matter what anybody else did, that's the Robert De Niro Hotel.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of large multifamily residential. We've represented Habitat since the 70s. We've Heitland, Crescent Heights, Magellan. So we do have a lot of experience with multifamily residential, and a lot of them are mixed-use
Yeah.
developments. Although, given the number of units and the limited retail, in Chicago or Cook County, it's important. Your predominant use is residential, so you get a lower assessment ratio applied to the market value,
Sure.
whereas the commercials are
It's higher, yeah.
So, but because the commercial, unless you put it on its own pin for some reason, everything will be at 10% of market.
Yeah, we haven't done that. It doesn't sound like it's to our advantage to do
No,
that.
well, I suppose the only way it gets done these days is if you have one retailer and they insist on their own pin, but to do that, then you have to do a vertical subdivision, and not that it's the end of the world, but
Yeah,
it's
my
more-
presume is,
more work.
we're passing through taxes, so they would
Yeah,
enjoy
from a real
the
estate tax
residential,
perspective, yeah,
rate.
you would, if you're gonna make a decision on that, obviously, yeah, you wanna just keep the predominant use and not have the retail, taxed, assessed at 25%,
Right,
so.
understood.
Where are you, I understand you're in the zoning process, so
We
the
are.
idea would be, is this a takedown, or are you literally building on air rights, you described it, or?
No, so what we're doing is we are gonna buy the land from Haymarket, right? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna provide for them 64 parking spaces, which is probably the nuanced part of it, and that's gonna be below grade. So those parking spaces, they will own.
Oh, so they'd be.
Forever.
Okay.
Yeah, forever. They'll own them, and then we've got a reciprocal easement agreement that we've negotiated so that they pay their fair share of the maintenance for those spaces, and we pay ours for our stuff, and it's hopefully going to work out just fine. So there will be two separate pins, and they'll be mostly sort of an air rights kind of thing, so that they'll own the below grade spaces, we'll own everything else.
Okay.
And that's how it's going to work. So they will remain, that parking will not be, maybe used for the public, I doubt it, but it'll be for their residents, not for the residents, excuse me, for their employees, and maybe some guests, but mostly predominantly it's employees and guests of their staff, right, is how I understand their use.
Okay, so you have a common entrance, there's one entrance to the parking.
Yeah, common entrance.
But they are dedicated spaces that they'll own.
Yeah, well, I won't get to use them, whether I want to or not, they won't let me use them.
Okay.
And we tried.
Okay, yeah, well.
And we worked a lot of different.
You're lucky Monsignor McDermott isn't alive.
Yeah, no, they negotiated.
You have under 28 spaces.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Whatever
He
it
was
was,
all,
he just wanted to
hey,
do.
that guy was a tremendous man, believe me.
Well, I'd say that the folks over there didn't, would have, he would have been proud of them.
Yeah,
They
he
were
was
not-
okay.
they
He
didn't
was the
roll-
real, he was the real deal.
They did not roll over,
Believe
as I
me, he
recall.
was the real deal.
Yeah,
I
I've heard.
Yeah, he was quite a guy.
Yeah, I've heard.
So in the best of worlds, what would be your construction
Yeah.
timetable?
So if all goes according to schedule, we'd love to be able to start by the end of this year. That may bleed into early next year. We're trying to get closed in the end of December.
So you
We've
think
got
maybe
a,
occupancy 2019 or no?
I think it's going to take
2020.
17, 18 months. So
So-
it'd be middle of, so we start in 18, it'd be middle of 19 when we
Yeah.
first occupy,
Right,
and then it'll take another,
Year and a half?
yeah, probably, year and a half.
Okay.
That's if the market holds, and it could take longer. So it's
Yeah.
357 units, so we underwriting.
Are you
20
gonna build them in stages then, the one building?
We will, no, we'll build it all together,
Oh,
but
okay.
I think the smaller building, which we're calling Building B, that'll probably deliver first.
Which is on Madison?
Yeah.
It's a one-story?
That'll,
The one-story
no,
building?
it's on Morgan.
Morgan.
Morgan's the north-south street, right?
Okay, yep.
Yeah, so the smaller one's on Morgan. That one, it's 139 units, give or take, so I think that
Okay.
one.
Oh, that's the smaller of the
The
residential.
smaller of the residential
Yes.
buildings. So
Madison's the smallest of
Yeah,
all
yeah,
of those.
that's just.
Madison
that's
is the
all
one
retail.
story, right?
That's for resale. And then the bigger building will come shortly thereafter, just because it's got more units, just a bigger building.
Sure.
And it's got a bigger footprint, so that'll come later. But what we try to do is we try to occupy you know, the lower floors as soon as we can. And then as the building finishes, we occupy, it's sort of a phased occupancy. So we don't build the whole building, have it all ready to move in and move everybody in at one time. We kind of do it, we're starting from the ground and move up. If that makes sense to you.
It makes sense, like, let's hope it makes sense to the building.
Mhm.
No, I
When
think
you
it
draw your
does.
certificate
I-
of
I-
occupancy,
yeah,
it's
we
gotta
do
be
that.
done a certain.
Yeah, we've run through that
Way, okay.
with our contractors.
Okay.
We've talked to a number of different ones,
Sure,
and
sure,
they've validated our assumptions.
okay. Well, is
We'll
there-
see how it works.
Okay, is there structure there that you're gonna take down, or are you just building over? I'm trying to picture it because I don't have the exact.
There's
address.
probably a half of it is just parking lot.
Surface parking.
Right,
Service parking lot.
right.
And then the
Okay.
other half is existing, it's probably at least a building, maybe a couple additions that they're occupying
Okay.
right now. And those are just single
Haymarket's in
story.
there now.
Haymarket is in there now.
Mhm.
They're gonna move what their activities in that building into their existing building across the street
Okay.
to vacate. So,
Okay.
so that's being occupied now. We'll demo that. First thing we'll do is demo, and then we'll start the
Right,
construction
yeah.
in earnest.
Because even though I'm sure it has a modest, the improvements have a modest value, again, the one good thing about Cook County and Chicago is that while you're under construction, no matter what stage you're at, until you have first occupancy, you're at vacant land status. All they're going to assess is the vacant land, although the land value there now is obviously changed
Different,
from
for sure.
a while ago, but still, you're not
So does that set it-
assessed on improvement.
Does that get reassessed at the purchase price? Is that how that works?
No, you probably don't want it at the purchase price. The
No,
purchase price is, you know, in a lot of jurisdictions is conclusive. In Cook, it's usually, right now, it's not a helpful fact because it's probably at a value that's higher than, you know, or where it's assessed is lower than where the
Mhm.
market is, your land value. Everything in Cook is probably under assessed vis-a-vis what it actually trades for,
Yeah.
you know, on the market. That gets made up for though, because there's a multiplier. The state comes along and equalizes your assessment without getting into the weeds, but no, you'll be set at a value when you're at land. Next year, 2018, Chicago's on a try, so every 3 years, land is assessed. And you'll be at.
All land
where's
is
the-
assessed, or is there
all
just
land within the
1/3
city.
this year, 1/3 the next year?
Well,
It's
in
not
Cook,
rolling.
it's 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, but the city is 1 year.
1 year.
So 2018, the entire city of Chicago
Gets
gets
reassessed.
reassessed. 2019 is basically the northern suburbs, 2020 it's the southern, and then it repeats.
I got you.
So,
So 18 every 3 years. 18's the year that
Right,
the
and your
city-
next year will be 21.
21, okay.
But once your improvement is up, you'll be assessed on it. You'll get a partial assessment based on your occupancy and revenue.
Yeah,
And-
so if I can interrupt, just so I make
Sure.
sure I understand. So from the time we close, it just is what it is, right? The current assessment.
To
'cause
that
it's-
point in
And then we
time.
would demo, and probably, would we have to go back then and say, look, these improvements have gone?
Yes.
So
Right.
we'd go back to the city, do that. And then
Do
as we
assessment.
build it, so we build the whole building, and as soon as we get that first occupancy,
Right.
then the valuation will change from
Right,
from
then, well,
land
from land
to
to
land plus
improvement.
improvements.
Correct, and then from what you're saying, only a percentage of the improvement will be occupied and you're still building. So they'll assess the improvement that's there and they'll give you a discount for occupancy, because basically, for income producing properties, the assessor by and large uses an income capitalization approach to value. So he's interested in your revenue. Obviously, once you reach stabilization, your land value really gets blended into your overall value
Just
that
the
he's
NOI.
derived.
Just NOI.
While you have vacancy though, your
Yeah.
land value is relevant because
Yeah.
he's taking the land value and adding whatever the improvement is to it, the percentage that you're occupying.
Sure.
So he's going to look at it every year between, depending if you demo this year in 2017, if it's right at the end of the year,
It won't
you
happen.
know, okay.
I
So you-
suspect we'll close
Okay, so
on the land in
2017,
December and then 18.
you know, we would look at it to see that, you know, it's assessed properly, but I suspect it is, and maybe if it's, I don't know whether Haymarket is in it or not-for-profit, or whether they have an
There,
exemption
it is,
or
it
not.
is an exemption.
It is.
Okay,
My understanding it is.
Okay, so you're gonna have to give the assessor notice within 30 days of the sale that you purchased it, although it'll take them 2 years to process it maybe, so.
Yeah.
We'll see. But that's a statutory requirement when you purchase exempt property to notify the assessor.
Sure.
Best observed in the breach, but it establishes goodwill, let's put it that way.
And when they catch up with that,
No, they can back tax
Oh,
it,
back
but
tax.
I don't think you're probably talking about, you're just talking about land
Yeah.
value for the period you owned it, and it shouldn't, although I suspect in 2018, when they revise the land values, that area is gonna go up. It did go up in 2015, but not dramatically or anything. So the big, really the most work becomes involved once the assessors inclusions, even though it's partial. Because even though, let's say for 2019, you're 20% occupied, and you'll ultimately get an assessment that reflects that, but he starts by, at that time, he's got the plans, he knows what the project as completed will be. He develops a full assessment, and that's why it's important. That first year is always very important to go in and challenge what he thinks it may be at full, even though you're going to be entitled to a big discount off of that.
He's setting the bar high.
Once a number gets in
and then once it's
there,
in,
you
you're
gotta,
finished.
it's harder, well, you're not finished, but it's always harder to, they're on more.
Recapture
They're
that.
in a defensive crouch, you don't
Yeah.
want to yield the high ground,
No, I understand that. So one of my questions is is this a reactive process or a proactive process?
Well, it's reactive in the sense that you gotta be proactive, but you wait, the assessor, will issue assessment. For 2017, it would be entirely proactive, because he's just gonna put whatever was down. For 2015, it probably stayed the same, 2016, 2017. If there's some basis, the taxpayer can always go in. What they do is they stagger the township. Cook is divided into 32 townships, and the city is probably, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 townships. You're in West Township, that's already open for 2017. There's 2 levels of administrative contest or protest of assessments. It begins with the assessor. He gives you a 30-day period when he opens that township. You can come in, file, and you'll get a result. If you're unhappy, you then can go to the Board of Appeals, which is a 3-person elected board, and they have the final word. From there, if you're still unhappy, you have your choice of either going to court, circuit court, or the Illinois Property Tax Appeal Board, which is a state agency that looks at assessments. We typically recommend going to court, because in court, it's just a question of whether you'll get a reduction. If you go to PTAB, they have the power to raise as well as lower. So you got to make sure you have a very sound case before you go to PTAB. And recently, they, while they don't do it infrequently, it's, you don't want to get involved in that if you're at risk. So just about all our multifamily residential clients would file in circuit court. And it's right now, PTAB is so behind. It used to be you would go to the state agency because you'd get a hearing sooner. Now they're delayed at least as long or longer than the court. So it takes about 2 years to minimum to adjudicate that appeal.
So I build my building, I get occupancy, then the assessor.
The assessor's going to assess it. He'll have a field man out.
He'll send me a
A
letter.
notice, right.
Saying, here's your assessment.
Yeah.
And then I would call you or some other firm and say,
Yeah.
I got the assessment, it's time to get.
Better to call ahead of time, but
Yeah,
better
no,
to
I
be on
understand.
the case. But
Yeah.
yes.
No, so
Right.
that's the
Because
proactive
then once
or
you get the
reactive.
assessment,
You have only
it's
a
a
period of
shorter
time.
time period.
Right.
A lot of times you get appraisers involved on
So-
major projects, and
Yeah.
then you're dealing not with your own time, which we can control, but with experts' time, which are,
Yeah, and so you just get the ability to appeal and present your case is short, and so you need to have
right,
your
it's like a
case set up in
30-day.
advance.
Well,
Okay.
depending on the township, it's between 30 and 60 days. Sometimes they give you additional time to file documents, but you have to have your appeal
Yeah.
filed within 30 days of when he sends the assessment out.
So is it sort of 3 months before we get occupancy that we would want to engage in a more meaningful way? What's your
Well,
take
what
there?
we would do is, we could
Why
send
don't you
a
tell me
pro-
what you typically do?
Well, typically, we work on a fixed fee basis for large projects, and obviously, while your land, you're testing the land, there's not much time involved, and in fact, we give you an opinion whether it makes sense to file an appeal or not,
Mhm.
okay? But at least we're engaged, we've opened the file, we have all the evidence, we know timelines and where to prepare for. Once we know that 2019 is a realistic first occupancy, we'd propose a fee for that. It wouldn't be a full fee, because even though it entails a lot of work, you're gonna have limited revenue, and it's not gonna entail the amount of work that once you hit stabilization is, or once you're fully, occupied, in the views of the assessor, whatever the market at that time, 90% probably right now for apartments, you're gonna be considered full. And so we would just schedule a fee that covers all the work, tax estimates, checking accuracy of bills, appeals to the assessor, appeals to the board review, everything administratively is a fixed fee. Thereon, appeals to court or PTAB are done on a contingent fee basis, because no one wants to pay you hourly, because those are maybes, okay? It's a tough standard, because the assessment you're appealing from when you go to court is presumed correct, okay? So there's quite a bit of time involved, because there's discovery involved from the state's attorney's office and yours. But we've had a pretty good record. I mean, it's a viable appeal. It just takes time, and you have to pay the real estate taxes that you're contesting in full as a precondition, so you don't get the skate just because you file.
Yeah,
an
so
appeal.
they give you a bill, you pay it,
You pay it,
and then you appeal, and then if you
Right.
win, you get money back.
Correct. But really, 90% of the work is involved at the assessor and the board of review. And they're pretty good. I mean, people, despite what you read, or people think it's pretty professionally run. And so it really, honest people can differ over the value. And that's where you need, but you don't, contrary to our federal government at the moment, there are facts, and, they're gonna, how you're actually doing is very
So is that open
important.
book, they will see what our actual revenues are? right?
Absolutely, they're gonna want your income and expenses, yeah.
So, and when they do the assessment, when you first get occupancy, is that just a book value? I have some experience in Baltimore. We
No, what
there
they're
too,
gonna
but what
come
they
in-
do is they come up with a book, and they
Yeah,
go
a
with so
book
many
value,
square footage.
They're gonna hit
They
you
do
with
a
a
calculation, and they
reproductive
go,
cost,
that's it,
right,
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
they don't have subpoena power, but they got something better.
Yeah.
They're not very likely to under-assess you, so
Yeah.
their best way of compelling disclosure of your income is to give you a reproduction cost estimate. And
It's a Houston
here you're
test, too.
partial, and so you're running in the next, here's what we actually are, so.
Yeah.
And they, I mean, yes, Chicago, on one hand, Chicago's a large town, on the other, in terms of these developments, it's kind of, they have a pretty good idea of what's going on.
So what's the secret of your success with clients? How do you work through the system to get the best outcome for your clients?
Well, actually,
I don't want you to
stooping
give
to
your
the
seat.
low ground of technical expertise, we've been at this 40 years. I think it helps, it's an information-driven practice. One, most of us here got into this the wrong way. I started off doing litigation, general civil litigation, and litigation in real estate tax cases, which means it's already been lost at the administrative level, so you're dealing with experts. Back then, we're actually trying these cases, and so it's the best way to develop expertise. It's the best way to really become an effective advocate, I think. A lot of people involved are more accounting, and just your green eye shaped guys, but you have to be able, to be an advocate for your client. Having back in the day, we probably had more access or a better database than other people in terms of all the assessments. Now, you can retrieve that, but what you can't retrieve is, to understand an assessment, you have to have enough clients with that property to realize what's market, what's not, what's, where you should be vis-a-vis all these other properties. At the end of the day, the assessor wants to, his goal is to be uniform, okay? There's a range that we know where we can place you. You can be at the top, you can be the highest, you can be the lowest, and somebody's got to be the highest, and sometimes that's one of our clients because we represent some very high-end properties, and yeah.
That's what we do.
At the end of the day, if you have a top-end property and you're getting more rent than everybody else, you're not going to, you need a magician, not a lawyer. Okay,
Right.
We're just lawyers.
You're not a miracle worker.
No,
Is that what
no, we don't hold ourselves out to be. But within that, I would say part of our success is that we have knowledge of where everything is and why it is that way.
Yeah.
I guess I just think, competency, I like to think. Second, there is an element of access to the decision makers. In a perfect world, everybody gets the same amount of time to argue their case, gets to access the guy who can say yay or no, nay. We have the ability to access the decision maker, which doesn't mean they can't say no. They do, at least to me all the time. Not all the time. So we have a very good track record in terms of final outcome. So I think it's just that, and persistence, knowing what you can do, what you can't do, credibility that you build up where your word is good, which they're not asking for a tax return, they're willing to accept the so, and that's what we've I think managed to do over the years, and it's meaningful. So some people say, oh yeah, they know you, but it's really, they could know you, but they could know you in a negative way. So
Right.
I think our reputation is
Fills
actually
in the
very
holes
helpful,
and they-
because
yeah.
they know that if we say something, whether it's in a brief or orally, they can take it to the bank, because no one case, one client has ever been enough to embarrass our firm or the client. That's something, we have to be pretty careful about, but whether we did or we didn't, we are. That's just the way, it's an old school way of doing business. But so I think that's the reason
Good.
for success. It's work.
Yeah.
Oh, like this.
There's challenging else, there's challenging parts, and there's parts that intellectually rewarding, but at the end of the day, a lot of it, you gotta work.
Yeah,
It's
got it.
not, the glory's when you cut the ribbon, right? But what led to that? How many false trails did you have to go to get the right site? So, I can never say we're the best. I've learned, second to none. That's the best one.
We don't take a second seat to anybody.
That's right.
That's great.
So,
Well, this has been super helpful.
It's a good education for me.
No, I
Well, the alderman, you came highly recommended, so not only,
he said nice things.
yeah, he said really nice things.
And so we typically don't engage with sort of tax attorneys at this point in time in the game, but it feels like we're...
you don't have to.
No, I understand that.
But I would advise you that once you close, at least to let us take a look at where things are and give you,
we might
tell
wanna
you
do that a
whether you
little
need
bit.
us, whether you don't. We're in it for the long term.
No, I understand.
Most of our we have a lot of clients that have been with us a long time, and that's the goal.
Well, what I was going to say is we typically don't, but based on what you've told me, I think we should engage someone before the end of the year for sure. Like at least have somebody on board. And so I presume you have a standard kind of letter that you
Yes,
send
I'll
prospective
send it.
clients that say, here's what we do, here's our firm, and here's, what I'd like to see is just the fee basis.
Yeah, no, I'll
would be
send you
helpful, so-
I'll send you a proposal.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'll send you a resume that tells you all the wonderful things about us.
Because unfortunately, we do have to answer and explain the decision.
But
We do.
there's not going to be a lot of expense until you actually get a partial assessment. Okay?
Yeah.
Unless you run into some issues where there's title, something that, what I mean, that may be a little out of our sphere, but there's tax issues which shouldn't be, particularly this property is exempt, so the only thing to know is we'll draft a letter for you to send notifying the assessor, because there is whether they impose a penalty if you don't, because they want to know about it,
And
so.
presently, the property is 3 different pins.
That's true.
So, the one property that we're developing will only be retail on that pin, but we want to somehow integrate it
Yeah,
to
so
one pin.
we're going to take it from 3 to 2.
Well,
Close.
that's a consolidation, we can do that. We do that work on an hourly basis, because some is very simple, a horizontal division or consolidation shouldn't take much time. You just have to have the legal descriptions. It's only when you start doing a vertical and you're carving out, then we've got to get surveyors involved, and that's more time intensive, and in the old days, the city council could get involved approving it, because you start crossing subdivision lines that I don't know of any, I'd have to take a look at your title agreement, but I don't think that's an issue there.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna, but if you should, on that, you should probably start, you could do it on plans, because you have to file, if you filed before October of this year, which it sounds like you can't, the division or consolidation is never effective until the next tax year, which would be 2018 payable 2019. You're probably gonna file in 2018. That consolidation or division will be effective in 2020.
Okay.
Or
And
filed in
Kmart
2018,
is one of the
2019.
main exempt.
Yeah, no, they're
New
will
parking
remain
lot.
exempt for sure.
The 64 parking spaces.
Will remain exempt.
Yeah, we'll have to that's gotta be a carve out, so it's shown that
Yeah.
they're on their own.
Yeah, we're going to need somebody to help us do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm,
I mean, he's saying this, my head's spinning.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, when I
As
started
long as it's
studying-
horizontal, they're all on the same level?
No, because
No.
part of it, you're going,
Okay.
there's
well,
3 parts. One part, Haymarket will be below, and then the other 2 parts, Haymarket will not be below, right?
Yeah, it's.
Okay.
I need a set of plans.
Yeah.
Pictures
All
worth
right.
1,000 words.
Yeah, right. Well,
I don't know,
okay,
you don't have enough time today for me to think it all, so the plans help. But we'd love to get the letter from you, and then we can start thinking through that process. We do have to sort of vet these kinds of decisions with our
Sure.
equity partner. They tend to, because they provide most of the money, so they like.
Is that the Goldman Sachs Group?
Yeah. So that they'll want to have a say in who we choose, but love to get the letter. We obviously are going to need somebody in the city of Chicago to do this for us, and so you guys.
And reputation matters.
Yeah, reputation
Size
matters,
so
and
This is very helpful.
Come highly recommended, so we'd love to figure out.
What would be the name of the contracting entity?
Of
If we were to send a proposal, in other words,
I can
is
get
it
it
an
to you.
LLC? Is it?
Well, you can just send it to, ZOM is who you could send it to, but
Okay.
we are going to be, I forget what the entity we're buying.
Union, Haymarket.
Union West.
Apartments.
It's not Union West?
Union West, Haymarket, something.
Yeah,
Okay.
so Union West is the name of the project, but the entity that's buying I'll have to get it to you.
Okay, but I should send it to you.
Yeah, you send it to me,
All right.
it'll be fine.
Both of you?
And I'll get it to Rick.
Okay. All right,
That'd be
real good.
awesome, so.
Okay.
Do you have any questions anymore?
Not at this point, no.
Well, we again appreciate
I
the
think,
time.
I have enough to put together a proposal, and I'm pretty familiar with the area. For years, I went to La Sardine, which is over on
So did I.
Carpenter, and so that area,
Right.
to see the change. Of course, now the McDonald's headquarters going up, it's just crazy
It
to
is.
see those guys work till 10 o'clock at night.
It's almost like
All
China.
through I mean, it's crazy.
Have you ever been to China? They're working at midnight, you know?
Right across from this little French restaurant, these guys are hammering, driving,
Working away.
They dug the foundations, put up, now they're at about 6 or 7
It's
stories.
like Dubai. They
It's
work.
it's
In Dubai,
amazing.
China, they do
They
that.
had 3 8-hour shifts.
Yeah, these
They're working
guys
24
were,
hours a day, build those buildings.
Yeah, it was just amazing to me how.
What's interesting in China, they have these bamboo scaffolds, you know.
They do, right?
Whoa.
They do. I have a buddy of mine that worked in Indonesia. He built cigarette factories and condos and all kinds of stuff. He lived over there for 5 or 6 years, and he was telling me about the bamboo scaffolding. They strap that stuff with bamboo scaffolding, like several.
Right, just
not
like you see here.
Like 6-story buildings with bamboo scaffolding. It's crazy.
I've seen them much taller than
Yeah,
that.
and it works, so.
You know what would be helpful to me is if you had the pins. If
Yeah, I
you
get all
had
that to you.
Pins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably take me a couple days because I'm traveling back and I'm in meetings all day tomorrow, but I should be able to get that to you.
Okay. Well, if you, do you have my?
Yeah, I got
It doesn't have my email.
Oh, you should know
I'm
that.
primitive.
You do have emails, don't
AOL.
Yeah, well,
Dial-up.
you? The
we had Pony Express up
Yeah.
until,
I tell you, when you think about it, even with the Archdiocese selling that parking lot across from Holy Name, that's a big, goes from 0 real estate taxes to,
Yeah.
especially that parking lot.
Huge.
And this too is gonna be.
What are they putting, 1.2 million square feet of stuff on it?
Yeah, they paid $100 million for the parking lot. So how big of a building are you building if you're gonna pay $100 million for the parking lot?
I'm meeting with the Cardinal on
It'd be a
Thursday.
$30 million real estate tax bill. Something crazy, right?
We need it.
Yeah.
We need it.
That's the, you should get the Archdiocese to sell everything. Turn it all into taxable.
Well, thank you again. We'll be in touch this week for sure.
real good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the education.
Thank you, Speaker.
Very nice to meet you.
Yes, pleasure.
Yeah, very nice to meet you. Safe trip.
Pleasure.
Good to meet you.
Take care.
Did you want to talk about this other
Yeah,
thing?
could we?
Sure. You want to sort these guys out?
Yeah. Hey, Andy, you mind if I stick around for a little while?
No, of course, yeah.
Okay.
We're done. Thank you.
Again,
Good
thank
to
you for
see
the intro.
All right.
Go to the exit sign and take a left.
All right, appreciate it.
And then you push 2 doors.
All right.